Shadowy figures in the basement, seen only by the women in the family. Heart-stopping noises that didn't actually happen. And a homeowner who never left once his house was sold. These are 3 real, terrifying ghost stories, as told by the witnesses who were there, and still can't fully explain what happened to them. I've kept these stories pretty much exactly as they were sent to me, so you're hearing them in the witness's own words. And this first story comes from V and takes place in rural Pennsylvania. Hey, I said rural first time. The area used to be full of farms and coal mines, but over time the mines have shut down and the small farms have been run out by large corporate farms. The towns of the area are slowly dying as young family members are forced to move to find work. My maternal grandmother's side of the family has a laundry room in the basement of my great-grandparents' old home. Already, there's a basement in this story, you know it's going to be creepy. All of the women in the family have seen a shadow figure in the doorway, but they refuse to talk about it unless they are prompted. They also all agree that the air in that room is heavy. Many of my aunts refused to even enter the old laundry room in the basement. Eventually, they added new laundry hookups to the first floor bathroom in the place of an old linen closet. I would love to know if that was purely for convenience or if seeing the ghost had anything to do with it. But they now use the old laundry room as seasonal storage, and the new laundry closet is where the washer and dryer now sit. A few visits ago, I brought up that I don't like the feeling of that basement room. All of a sudden, my aunts started dumping their shadow person stories on me. I was in my late 20s by this point. It turns out that they never tell any of the kids because they don't want to scare them. They just wait for the kids to grow up and mention it themselves. The thing is, that house was built by my great-grandparents. They weren't perfect, but they loved their kids, grandkids, and great-grandkids unconditionally. They lived their lives honest and open, and they made sure that every family member always had a place to go when they were missing home or having trouble in life. No one overly negative has ever set foot in that house, as far as I'm aware. The shadow person down there has no reason to exist and is definitely not the ghost or spirit of a deceased human. That house is not even 100 years old yet, and my older relatives were seeing the shadow figure back when they were teens. For all intents and purposes, that shadow should not exist. So thank you, V, for sharing yet more reasons why basements are hands down the creepiest room in a house. V did also share another story which was incredibly weird, so I'll have to tell you about that one very soon too. But basements. My mind can conjure up my own horrors in the shadows, let alone having an actual shadow figure down there too. It is such a curious thing who this entity could be, with so many people seeing the same thing over decades, and only the women in the family too. Possibly might be an idea to look into the history before the house was built, what the land was actually used for. V mentioned the land in that area being mined and farmed. Could something have happened, especially mining, could something have happened nearby underground? And so maybe that's where this shadow figure has come from. Still, would not want to run into them down there, as if doing the laundry wasn't bad enough. The second story comes from Mandy and her husband. She says that I moved into my home in January 2014, and since I moved in, there have been very strange things happening here. For context, both neighbours either side are deaf and elderly and are usually in bed by 8 PM. Gotta say, perfect neighbours. Very often though, we get the smell of toast cooking, and not a faint smell, but like it's being toasted right beside you. We also get a very floral, perfumey smell, usually, after the toast smell. That is really interesting. You usually find those sorts of things with what people believe are female entities, or when you burn your toast and you use Febreze to hide the evidence. But it doesn't usually just come on its own. My husband has seen things out of the corner of his eye. He's also been touched, like cold fingers running down his forearm, and he's got goosebumps on that arm, but not the other. Okay, taking a shine to your other half, that seems fitting with the female entity again. But the worst things are what we have heard. One night we were sat in the living room watching TV, and it's about 10:30ish. Our 2 German shepherds, and rest in peace Pagan and Salem, they had put themselves to bed out in the kitchen about an hour before, when suddenly, in the kitchen, it sounded like someone had picked up all of our saucepans and thrown them onto the concrete floor. We both jumped up and rushed into the kitchen to find nothing. Our dogs were still asleep, all the pans were still on the shelf, nothing was out of place. Another night, I'm in the shower, hubby is downstairs. All of a sudden, it sounds to me like our cats had managed to knock over their huge tree and it had fallen down the stairs. To Rich, my husband, it sounded like I had fallen in the shower. We both rushed out to the landing to see what had happened, only to find the two cats asleep in their beds on the tree and nothing out of place again. First of all, totally valid reaction, expecting that the cats have been up to something. I swear they always try to make the loudest noises once you've gone to bed, or at least later at night. Quite often, on a night time, our new dogs, 3 chihuahuas, will all look up at the top of the wall to the ceiling and be barking and growling. Obviously, we can't see what is disturbing them, but whenever it does, we get the smell of toast and perfume again. I'm not saying it's spirits, but it's definitely unexplained. Oh, it's so easy to put down weird noises to just the animals being animals, isn't it? But when the noises are that loud, and then you run thinking you're about to see utter devastation, and not a single thing is out of place. But then that detail about the toast and perfume smells. You hear that sort of thing come up again and again in stories, those sort of phantom smells that hit you. It does make you wonder who could have been clattering about in that house burning their toast. Possibly an old homeowner? A bit like this next story. And this one is from Keon. And they say that back in 2007, my mom bought a new house that had recently been renovated. I remember telling her as soon as we went to view the house that I didn't like it and it gave me a funny feeling. But the other house that we were looking at ended up getting sold, so we had to go for that one. The first night we moved in, me, my mum, brother and sister were sitting in the living room eating Chinese on cushions because the new sofas were being delivered the next day. Ah yes, the classic takeaway on not furniture, as you don't know where the pots and pans are packed and you've earned it after moving all those boxes all day. We all heard someone walking across the upstairs landing. Distinct footsteps. My brother ran upstairs to look, but nothing. We put it down to being an old house, but we didn't know that this was just the beginning. A few days later, the next door neighbour came to the door to introduce himself. It didn't take him long to invite himself in and happily point to a spot on the kitchen floor, telling us that that's where the former owner had died about a year ago. Thank you, random neighbour, that is exactly the kind of information I want about my new house. Not bin collections, neighbourhood watch, how much dog poo's on the pavements, no. Tell me about the dead owner. Things started making sense to me then. Since we moved in, the hairs on my arms had gone through stages of standing up straight, and I just knew something was off. Over the next few months, we all agreed that there was a ghost in the house. Every day, there would be footsteps on the landing, up and down the stairs, electronics switching on and off, and just a strange feeling in the house. My friends used to come and visit and say it felt like someone was touching them. There'd be cold gusts of wind, even with all the windows and doors closed. We all just learned to live with it. A year or two later, my sister's boyfriend bought her a puppy. Now that is a good boyfriend right there. That's the kind of gift you want, as long as you actually want a puppy. Puppies aren't just for Christmas or whatever that slogan was. For weeks, the puppy refused to go in the kitchen. Eventually, one morning at about 3 a.m, we woke up to him barking. I went downstairs and he was in the kitchen just barking at the spot on the floor where the previous owner of the house had died. And this would end up happening 3 to 4 times a week at exactly the same time every morning. Creepy as hell. Creepy, yes, but if puppy, you could just shift your schedule just a couple of hours, that would be awesome. Very much convenient. There was honestly so much that happened over the years. For me though, the worst one was one night a few days before Christmas in 2011. I woke up in the middle of the night and there weren't any lights on in my room, but I could feel something slightly glowing. I turned around and there was a figure, the best way I can describe it, just there in the corner. I did think I was dreaming at first, but I quickly realised that I wasn't. I shouted, "Go away!" and the figure floated away into the ceiling. We love that, a ghost that respects boundaries when we tell them to go away. The next night, I didn't even want to sleep in that room, but I had to, so I just turned over and faced the wall. Just as I was getting to sleep, a glowing orb thing appeared on the wall right next to my face. It was moving around on the wall for 10 to 15 seconds, and then it just disappeared. I got out of that room fast. There was another occasion when my younger sister was out in the back garden hanging her washing out. She was home alone and the keys were on the inside of the back door. All of a sudden, the back door slammed shut. The handle pulled up and the key turned, locking her out in the back garden. She had to call me to come and let her in through the front door. Oh, you would be so mad, wouldn't you? Thinking someone in your family was pranking you. When I am hanging the washing out, again, doing laundry, my favourite chore, obviously, that is not the time to prank me. It has calmed down slightly now. There are still the footsteps, hair standing on end, and the feeling someone is watching you, but he doesn't make appearances anymore. Imagine being locked out of your house like that though. I mean, a gust of wind could slam a door shut, no big deal. But unless there has been some anomaly of nature, I don't believe a gust of wind could lift the handle up and then turn the key in the lock. So it certainly seems like he, this old homeowner, carried on living in his house. Well, I guess not living, occupying his house. But I just want to say a huge thanks again to V, Mandy and Kian for sharing your stories. And I hope that you enjoyed this little change to my usual content. I adore researching the history behind the hauntings, but I'm also obsessed with hearing real life witness accounts of strange goings on. So expect to see a lot more of these. So if you're into that, please do like the video, and if you don't want to miss any of these stories, make sure that you're subscribed too. And let me know what you think of this style of episode. This is only the first one, so I expect in 6 months that I will not be able to watch it back without cringing too hard. But if you'd like to submit a story for me to share too, please do email me at hello@don'tscareclaire.com or use the form pinned in the comment section. I would really love to hear from you if you've ever encountered anything a little bit weird. Normally it's not the full-on horror movie style ghost stories. It's just those little things in your own home or when you're out and about at work that just make you think, oh no, that was weird. But next week we're back doing a super deep dive on a very old, supposedly very haunted place. But anyway, that is all from me today. Make sure you're sticking to those New Year's resolutions. Get drinking your water, please. I cannot wait to chat with you more about the morbid, mysterious and macabre. So until next time, sleep safe. I feel like I'm as nervous, well not as nervous, but kind of as-ish nervous about this than I was when I did my first episode back in 2023. I mean, if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you, I suppose.